because I did not have my microphone on. I had to turn the microphone on. And in the last couple of days, I haven't been able to record. I haven't been able to do Inchstones, which is the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And it was because I needed one little thing, and it was a USB port that was powered. And I was had challenges because technologically my camera was not communicating to my computer. My computer wasn't communicating to my to the monitor, and so I had all these challenges. And I found that it was just a communication problem. And today, Proverbs 27, when I got into it, I sat down and I was like, God, what are you going to have me speak on today? And what he let me know of is there was a song that was by Maverick City, and it said, "Not by power and not by might." And there's God-sized problems in your life. And I was like, oh man, what's the God-sized problem in my life that I've been trying, that I've been forcing? And then it brought to mind what my pops would always say to me: as long as you're trying, then you're not letting. And, my pops would always get on me with this, and he would say, boy, if you're trying, then you're not letting. And then he would follow up with a question that he would actually give the answer to at the end. And he said, how big is God? And I would be like, okay, Pop. And I'd give him a couple answers, and they wouldn't be right. And then he would follow it up with this answer: God's as big in your life as you'll get out of the way and allow him to be. And see, what I thought was that I would get prepared in life. I would get prepared with the microphone turning on. I would get prepared with all these things, and then I would insulate myself from all the challenges that I might see coming forward. And what God said is, your life can turn in an instant. It can change just like that. And I had a couple friends in my life, and I had one friend in particular where his life got turned upside down in an instant. There's no way we could be prepared for that. But what we can do is that in those times and in all times, we can simply depend on him as opposed to our power and our might. So as I went through Proverbs 27 today, I started to ask myself, what are the God-sized problems that I should just give up to him and let him work on? Because it won't be by my power or by my might. It'll be by his love and his grace. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Proverbs 27, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. For those of you watching, you can already see it. For those of you listening, I apologize about the audio being off for a little bit. I had to turn my microphone on. I didn't see it on the soundboard. But I am wearing my Kentucky Fried Chicken t-shirt today, and that's the reason why, is because it was my first job that I ever had. And this morning we had a podcast. If you haven't got a chance to be able to check it out, it's episode 493. Matthew Kurbis, the subscription lawyer or subscription attorney, and the guy is phenomenal. He dropped some gems, and he talked about too. I love towards the end of the episode where he talked about why he was actually doing it and why it meant so much and how comparison can be the thief of all joy. But early on in the episode, he asked me about, my first job. And he said, the first time he had a job, he got taxes taken out and he was kind of mad. And he was like, were you mad at taxes being taken out of your paycheck when you worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken? And I said, well, I was kind of blinded by a couple other things. Number one was a guy named Juan. Juan was like the Rico Suave of fast food. So he was the manager there in Lompoc, California. Juan, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And he was there, and he used, I never knew you could do this, but he used his managerial position at Kentucky Fried Chicken in Lompoc, California, to straight hook up with ladies. That was his game. He was the man, and he was like the Rico Suave. Well, he didn't like me that much because I didn't work that hard. And a lot of times I didn't do what he said, but because I was in that environment and I was watching him get all the ladies that I would like to talk to, but I wasn't the manager at KFC, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him. So the fact that they took money out of my check, I always thought that it was Juan taking my money, and then he was using it to romance all the ladies that he was able to talk to because he was the manager at KFC. So, but I am wearing my shirt today, Kentucky Fried Chicken, because it takes me back. And every single day that I'm not working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, or that I have get to do exactly what I love to do, then I think it's a phenomenal day. And I always want to remember where I came from. Always want to be thankful for the opportunities that I had and learning the lessons from Juan and from different people that I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And if you ever were in Lompoc during the time that I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken, you probably got some free chicken at the end of the night. I'll pay that forward as we move forward. In Proverbs 27 today, it was wild because it was all about power and might. And I started to ask myself this because I started question on this, like, what things in my life do I have that I am trying so hard and I'm not allowing it to be able to happen? We've all been in these situations where we try and force something, it doesn't work, we back off of it, and we give it a little bit of time, whether it be a relationship or work or whatever it is, and then, oh, wow, magically it happens. It's incredible that way. So in Proverbs 27, it went down a couple of things. It ran us down this as far as how to be able to get prepared, but it also brought us back to the fact that it's never going to be by our power, never going to be by our might, and all the things that we can ever do. God doesn't need our strength and our help. What he needs is our heart and our obedience. And it'll come through his love and through his grace, which is unwarranted and unmerited. But he gives it to us. Why? Because he loves us. And so in verse 1 through 3, it talked about doing great work and let someone else sing your praises. This is probably the hardest thing to do in our current society because we always want to beat our chest as soon as we do something. If it doesn't have a video, if someone doesn't know about it, then we have the tendency to think that, you know what, it didn't ever happen. And so that is one of the things that I've found that is challenging at times, because we will have the tendency to think that in the event that it did not happen on camera, that it didn't actually happen. And I'll take it one step further, where in the event that it didn't happen on camera, I didn't get a share, a like, a comment, then people have the tendency to think that it did not happen. And I want to encourage every single one of you out there that just do the work and let someone else sing your praises, because those praises are so much heavier and carry so much weight than ever you beating your own chest. In verse 4, it talks about jealousy never ends well. In verse 5, 6, and 9, speak truth in love. Some people want to speak truth, but especially when we're watching like American Idol, things like that, we watch the judges. Sometimes they just want to give someone something, but there's not a lot of love behind it. And so make sure that when you're speaking love in truth, it will lift your friends up all around you. In verse 15 to 16, stay humble and content. And if you didn't get a chance to watch the episode with Matthew Kurbis, he talks about this contentment. He talks about this spirit of almost just joy, just falling in love with your current circumstances and allowing magic to happen. In verse 8, it's a common theme, which is work your land. When you work your land, it'll bring forth opportunity, or it'll make your land so fertile that the opportunities will happen in that place. How can I work my land? Well, number one is identify your gifts. Figure out what you are gifted at, and then go give it to the entire world. Go give it away to every single person that you possibly can. And that is working your land. And when you work your land, it's incredible the abundance of the harvest that will happen. In verse 10, give more than you take. That's a pretty simple concept. In verse 11, seeking wisdom brings joy. When you bring joy into people's life, people want to be around you. And when they want to be around you, guess what? Your brand expands. And then when you have a product, they want to be a part of that product. Why? Because they love your brand. And your brand is your words and your actions when it's in line. And so it makes it very simple when you give more than you take. And seeking wisdom will bring joy. In verse 11, I want to go back to that because, when we seek wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge, it just brings joy into people's lives. And when we bring joy, it's incredible what can happen. But that'll only happen when we seek wisdom first. That will bring joy into every environment that we walk into. In verse number 12, it talks about taking thought of the future creates protection. Self-explanatory. Verse 13, stay out of debt personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially. Some people look at debt as just being financial, but sometimes personally we're indebted to people. Professionally, we're indebted to people. The more in debt you are, the more outside of your character you will act. There's good debt, there's bad debt. You guys can go through those kind of things, but I tell you, debt is probably one of the toughest monkeys that will sit on your back and cause you to act out of character. In verse number 14, understand the situation and speak life specifically. So when you praise someone too early in the morning, they'll see it as a curse because they weren't ready for it. So understand and know the specific situation that you're dealing with, and then speak life into that. How do you do that specifically? By talking about things that are great about that situation or that person, but do it specifically. See, I learned this the hard way because I used to think that if I had a method and it worked for me, it should work for everyone. It should be universal, as opposed to taking the time, taking a breath, and realizing that there's an individual in this situation and they're dealing with the same thing that everyone else is dealing with, which my pops would say all the time, which is life hitting them in the face. And when life is hitting them in the face, they're doing the best that they can with what they have right now. So step away from the judgment, as I did for so long, and I still do, and set in and say, what does this situation call for? As opposed to what is the perfect thing to do right now. Speak out of love, but also understand and know the situation. In verse number 17, it talked about seeking wise counsel. In verse 18, quiet time with God will always bring a harvest. Quiet time with God will always bring a harvest. I was talking to my buddy Justin just after our men's group here in Carlsbad. And what he was telling me is he's like, I got these actions and they're relentless, and he's going through them. And I said to him, this is all God wants is your heart. If he has your heart, then he'll fill it up with wisdom, the right use of knowledge. He'll build you. He'll fill you with love. And then what that'll do is it'll strengthen your mind to be able to do the right thing. And what's the right thing? It's just diligence, which is doing what God had you to do at that time, knowing the situational, what's happening situational and circumstantially, understanding that part and acting according to what's right in that situation. And then when that happens, then he'll move your hands. So he'll start with your heart. He'll move to your mind and move to your hands. But if we start with our hands, try and convince our head and try and drop it down into our heart, it has the tendency not to be able to work out as well. In verse 19, your actions can never override your heart, and it goes right in line with that. In verse 20, stay focused on the right thing and live. See, this was a hard one for me because I always used to think, just stay focused. Well, what are you focused on? Well, what is the right thing? The right thing is what God would have you to do at that time. How do I know what that is? This is what Justin was asking me. How do I know what the right thing is right now? The only person who'll know is the one who created you for this moment. You can't miss the bus because the bus was made for you, and it'll never leave the station without you if it was made for you. You're exactly where you need to be right now at the exact right time. And if God needed you someplace else, he'd have you there. But maybe he has you here in this point of maybe pain or darkness or a little bit down, or even in the joy, so you can minister to somebody else and share your testimony. And when that testimony is about him, because you can't explain it, it won't be about your power or your might. It'll simply be because you rested in him. In verse number 21, people are tested by their praise. This is massive. People always say you'll find out who your friends are when you're down and out, but you'll also find out who you are when you get praised at a high level. In verse number 22, a little bit of poop stinks a lot. Some pastor was saying the other day, my pastor, Jason Graves, he was saying, mom walked into the room. She saw her son watching a movie that had some language that she didn't like. And she said, oh, well, what are you watching? He said, there's just a little bit of bad language. She said, okay, cool. She left, went in the kitchen and made some brownies. She went out in the yard, grabbed a little bit of dog poop, mixed it up in the brownies and fed it to her son. And when he said, oh my gosh, these taste nasty, what is that? And she was like, it's brownies. But there's just a little bit of poop in it. I hope the story is not true, but he told it. So, maybe it was an anecdotal story. But a little bit of poop stinks a lot. And so look for those areas in your life that you're saying, it's just a little bit, because a little bit of poop stinks a lot. In verse 27 or 23 through 27, it ends with work on, protect, and know the condition of your heart, because circumstances change in an instant. And all you'll be left with is what's actually in your heart. When we stop trying and start letting, it's amazing what can start to happen in our life, and we'll start to see how big God is. And the only way that we'll find out how big God is we allow him to be that. And like my pops was saying, boy, he's as big as you'll get out of the way, and allow him to be in your life. And then we'll realize that it's not about us. Our story is not about us. It's about someone that we're going to be able to bless. And our testimony will not be beating our chest and saying, it was by my power and my might. We'll have to turn and say, I have no idea how I was able to get out of this situation. I have no idea how I was able to get through this situation. The only way was from relying on the one who created me. And then you'll direct everyone's eyes to him. And that's what he wants to do anyways. So it's not by your power, not by your might. What is the thing today that you can release? What is that thing that you've been struggling with that seems to be getting no traction at all? And God is just saying, allow me to have it. Ask yourself that question and then give it up today. I hope you had a phenomenal time today. I have. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Make sure you subscribe, you comment, do all the things that you know that you need to do. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, do it. If you're not subscribed on Spotify, do it. If you're not subscribed on Apple, do it. And do all of them, and then send a comment to us too. It's the greatest compliment we can ever have. I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.